A $500 drone, a $3 million tank. The drone wins. That line shouldn't be possible. The T-90M Proryv is Russia's most protected main battle tank. Relikted explosive reactive armor, a Shtora-1 electro-optical jamming system, the Nakidka thermal suppression blanket, a hardened turret roof built to defeat top-attack munitions. Russia spent decades and billions engineering a vehicle that could survive the modern battlefield. Through 2025 and into 2026, Ukrainian FPV teams have destroyed or mission-killed an estimated 180-plus T-90Ms on the Pokrovsk, Toretsk, and Kupiansk axes alone. Most were struck by hobby-grade quadcopters assembled in workshops for $400 to $600 a unit. Retention count point 0. 30-hook resolution Ts. The question isn't why Russian armor keeps losing. The question is why Russian doctrine keeps sending it in the same way. The T-90M entered service as Russia's answer to the post-Cold War battlefield. The Relikt ERA package was a generational leap over its predecessor, designed to defeat tandem charge ATGMs, the weapon that had haunted Soviet-era tanks in Afghanistan and Chechnya. Shtora-1 emits an infrared jamming cone that disrupts semi-active missile guidance systems. The Nakidka blanket reduces thermal and radar cross-section. On paper, this tank was survivable. The engineers who designed it were solving the right problem for a war that no longer exists. ATGMs come from the side or the front. Artillery comes in steep but fast. Every layer of the T-90M's protection suite was calibrated for threats that arrive from known vectors at signatures passive systems can detect. The Shtora-1 jamming cone covers roughly a 20-degree arc forward. Relikt ERA tiles are densest on the glacis and turret face. The roof armor is the thinnest surface on the vehicle, an accepted engineering trade-off, because top attack threats were historically expensive and rare. FPV drones are none of those things. They arrive slowly, from above, from inside the electromagnetic dead zone that no EW system on the T-90M was ever designed to cover. Retention chant point 4. 0 stakes bend. Here's what's most surprising. It isn't that Ukrainian operators found a weakness. Every system has weaknesses. What's surprising is that Russian procurement took 3 years to begin addressing it, and still hasn't solved it at scale. Ukrainian drone operators don't attack the relict tiles. They don't target the glacis or the turret ring. They fly over the tank and come straight down on the engine deck or the commander's hatch. Surfaces where ERA coverage is thin or absent, where the shaped charge from a modified 40mm grenade punches through with enough residual energy to ignite fuel or cook off ammunition. OSINT analysts geolocated dozens of T-90M kills through 2025, confirming the same strike pattern. Approach from above 30 degrees or steeper, impact at or behind the turret centerline. Russia noticed the response was improvised. Cope cages, welded steel grids mounted above the turret, began appearing on T-90Ms near Avdiivka and later along the Pokrovsk axis. Some crews added log armor. A small number of vehicles were photographed with chainmail-style curtains hanging from the turret sides. Russian millbloggers called the adaptations promising. Defense analysts pointed out that cope cages offer marginal protection against direct fuse, warheads, and almost nothing against impact-fused munitions or thermite payloads, which Ukrainian operators had already switched to by late 2024. The adaptation gap tells the whole story. Ukrainian FPV units iterate firmware every 2 weeks. When Russian cope cages started appearing, Ukrainian teams had switched payloads and adjusted dive profiles within days. The adaptation cycle on the Ukrainian side runs on software updates. On the Russian side, it runs through a procurement chain that moves in months or years. One detail that has stuck with analysts tracking this campaign: Russian tank commanders know about the vulnerability. Intercepted communications from late 2025 show crew leaders asking for EW coverage before advancing, requesting drone escort that repeatedly fails to materialize, and in several documented cases simply refusing to move without it. The pressure doesn't come only from Ukrainian operators. It comes from sitting inside a vehicle, knowing that being seen means being targeted, and that the systems meant to protect you were designed for a different war. The controversial read: Russia's armor losses in this phase are not primarily a technology failure. They're a doctrine failure that technology cannot fix. The T-90M isn't a bad tank. It would perform well in a combined arms environment with proper EW cover, dedicated drone suppression, and coordinated infantry clearing the approaches. Russia has that capability on paper. In practice, the combined arms coordination required to keep the T-90M alive is exactly the coordination Russian forces have consistently failed to execute at the tactical level throughout this war. Sending a better tank into a broken doctrine produces a better equipped target. Par retention comp point. 50% mid-roll hook, the math is brutal. A single T-90M represents roughly 7,500 FPV drones at Ukrainian production costs. Ukraine's unmanned systems forces have scaled FPV output to levels that, by early 2026, allow multiple strike attempts per confirmed vehicle before a crew can react and withdraw. OSINT, tracking through the Pokrovsk axis, documented kill chains averaging under 4 minutes from first visual acquisition to confirmed mobility. Strike, in several cases under 90 seconds from drone entering terminal approach to detonation. Put yourself in the position of a T-90M commander in that environment. Your EW system wasn't designed to detect a slow-moving quadcopter descending from directly above. Your cope cage may or may not deflect the warhead. Your infantry screen, if it exists, is being suppressed by separate FPV teams working the dismounts. Doctrine says advance and create pressure. Every sensor above you says you've already been acquired. Do you hold position and become a static target, or advance into a kill zone that has been watching you for the last 6 minutes? That decision, made by individual commanders without reliable EW cover or drone escort, is where the T-90M's operational value collapses, not in the armor specifications, in the doctrinal environment surrounding it. Russian mill bloggers, to their credit, have written about this with increasing frustration through 2026. Several with large audiences have argued that the general staff is treating FPV saturation as a temporary tactical nuisance rather than a structural shift in ground warfare. The evidence suggests they're right to be frustrated. Armor deployments on the Toretsk and Kupiansk axes through spring 2026 have continued to follow patterns that Ukrainian targeting systems are optimized to exploit. Vehicles advancing without adequate vertical coverage, predictable route discipline, inadequate dispersion. The battle damage assessment goes beyond the tanks. Every T-90M mission killed represents a crew that is dead, wounded, or psychologically broken. It represents a logistics chain that moved the vehicle forward, fueled it, armed it, and supported it, all of it visible to Ukrainian ISR overhead. The cost isn't $3 million. It's $3 million plus the support infrastructure, plus the time, plus experienced crews who cannot be replaced at the same rate as the hardware. Subscribe to Fury Military because the next analysis covers how Russia is attempting to field dedicated drone suppression vehicles to protect its armor columns, what those systems can and cannot do, and why Ukrainian operators have already begun adapting around them. Modern war isn't decided by which side has better steel. It's decided by which side adapts faster and which side's doctrine is willing to acknowledge what the battlefield is actually showing it. The T-90M was built to survive the last war's threats. The drone was built last week. That gap doesn't close with a cope cage. Can a $3 million armored vehicle remain viable on a battlefield where $500 systems achieve equivalent lethality from vectors no armor protection was designed to defeat? And if the answer is no, what does ground warfare look like in 10 years? The purpose of this analysis is not to glorify war, but to understand the military and human realities behind it. Because the clearer we see modern conflict, the clearer the value of deterrence, stability, and peace becomes.